Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video on the page. Today, we are going to be talking about the top three prospects in the 2024 draft. If you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, you saw that I posted the Bob McKenzie updated top 16, which is basically just an aggregate of like the 10 most trustworthy scouts in the entire NHL. Bobby McKenzie is just that plugged in, and he does like the aggregate. I don't really want to talk about the aggregate as a whole because, especially with this draft class, there's a very clear top four, mainly top three, with Artem Leshinov being that fourth guy that's probably going to be a top five pick, but we don't fully know yet. There's a clear top three. Beyond that, guys that are like in the 7 or 8 spot right now, Mackenzie's could be out of the lottery by come draft time in 9 to 10 months. Like this draft is all over the place, except in that top three spot because these top three guys, we got Macklin Celebrini, Cole Iserman, Ivan Demidov, they are utter studs. They're not Connor Bedards, but they're on the same level as Fantilli, Carlson, maybe not quite Mitchkov, but they're all potential franchise level pieces. And I honestly, right now, Macklin Celebrini is definitely the favorite to go first overall, but I could see a scenario where Cole Iserman goes off for the U.S. developmental program and becomes the first overall pick. Demidov plays at the KHL level and tears it up, and they just see, oh, he played against men. He's going to go first overall. Or Celebrini just dominates at Boston University. But today I kind of wanted to dive into all three of them, give you my personal thoughts. I've watched some of them. I've watched some tapes, some full games, like only like one or two, but I've also watched a couple scouting breakdowns over the past couple months as we got out of the 2023 draft cycle. I kind of want to just give my thoughts on them and then maybe rank them at the end on right now who would be my one, two, and three. That's definitely possibly going to change over the next couple months. But let's get into it. First up, Macklin Celebrini obviously is the kind of consensus first overall. According to Bob McKenzie, there was one guy that had Cole Iserman first overall over Celebrini, but 9 out of the 10 scouts went with Celebrini. And it makes sense. You look at Celebrini, what he did in the USHL last year. Adam Fantilli is a guy that come draft time, and especially after what he did at Michigan, people were saying that he would have gone first overall in like a lot of drafts. So Adam Fantilli's 17 or final season in the USHL, 37 goals, 37 assists, 74 points in 54 games. This tweet is a little bit outdated, but Celebrini ended up going 40 goals, 46 assists in either 50 or 51 USHL games. They were both playing for Chicago Steel, and his point per game was about the same that you see right there. So you look at it, and Celebrini was the far more productive player by almost zero point 0.3 points per game at that level, and that definitely goes to show that his offensive potential is just off the charts because Adam Fantilli dominated Michigan, led the league in points per game, points, all that. So Celebrini next year should be able to tear up Boston University. And just at that age, you look at Celebrini, and considering he is 8 months younger than Fantilli, that is important when it comes to drafting prospects. 8 months. He has a June or July birthday. Fantilli is an October one. Prospects, that does matter, especially at 16, 17 years old. So the fact that Celebrini was more productive in the same league for the same team, I know there probably was some roster change, like over that year where Celebrini joined and Fantilli left, but probably not that big. Chicago Steel's still a solid team, and he was more productive and a better goal scorer. I think Celebrini definitely has more offensive potential. And when I personally watched Celebrini this year and watched the scouting breakdowns in the couple games that I did watch, he is just such a complete offensive player. With him, the main thing I've noticed is the transition game. His transition game is absolutely fantastic. Skating great. Him skating into the zone. He reminds me, I'm gonna give out my player comparison right now. He reminds me of Jack Hughes. His transition game reminds me of Jack Hughes. And unlike Hughes, he's already like 180 or 185 pounds, unlike Hughes, who was like 160, 165 soaking wet. He has a very Jack Hughes kind of game that he's so smooth in transition, such a smooth skater, while also having basically being good to elite at every other thing. He has a very good puck sense. I do think sometimes he just does too much with the puck, but I see that a lot with like USHL, especially. He's a lot better than most of the guys. But his creativity is off the charts. His playmaking's good. Shot is definitely good. Not as good as another guy that we're going to talk about right now. But overall, I think Celebrini, we're gonna get into the guys, but Celebrini is the safest prospect by far in terms of his production last year, in terms of his overall game. If I could bet on someone having the highest floor right now, like not busting, It's Celebrini by far because he really does everything in terms of a prospect. But I mean, he also has fantastic upside. But in terms of upside, it's also there. But he maybe doesn't have as much as the other two. And when looking at him this year, I forgot to mention this, but he did all this. He won the Rookie of the Year, Forward of the Year, Player of the Year, while having a severe shoulder injury. He's not even back for Boston University this year. He hurt his shoulder pretty bad this year and has missed multiple months. Like he did that amazing 16-year-old season with like a hurt shoulder. That's absolutely insane. So with Macklin Celebrini, we'll get into my rankings at the end, but he's a very good prospect, amazing in transition. Playmaking is very good. His hockey sense impressed me. He's always reading the next play, so I really like his game. Moving on, I don't think I have a picture of him, but moving on, we got Cole Eiserman. Cole Eiserman, the American stud, the goal scorer. He is kind of Austin Matthews 2.0 in a sense. He is a goal scorer's goal scorer. He's modeled his game around Austin Matthews. I think he wore 34 at the US developmental program this year, but he's an elite goal scorer. When you look at it, he is kind of a one-dimensional player. Like he scores so many more goals, doesn't really rack up a lot of assists. He is the go-to guy, or going to be the go-to guy next year. Kind of was this year for that US developmental team in terms of being the lead goal scorer, and the stats back it up. You look at him this year, as a 17-year-old, he almost beat Cole Caulfield's draft year production for the most goals by a player in their draft year. That is absolutely insane, especially when you consider, like Macklin Celebrini, who has a June birthday, so he's very young for his grade, because September 15th is the cutoff for the draft. Cole Eiserman has an August 26th birthday. So he is like 2 or 3 weeks. If he was born 2 or 3 weeks later, he would have been a 2025 draft prospect. You remember when Luke Hughes was draft eligible? Everybody's talking about he had like an early September birthday. And everybody's like, oh, he's basically like the following year. So compared to an Owen Power that was like 10 months older than him, you can't really compare the two. It's almost a full year. So when looking at Cole Eiserman, again, the fact that he almost set the U.S. developmental program single season record as a 16-year-old. He was 16 throughout the year. Cole Caulfield has a January birthday. I looked it up. So like Cole Caulfield was 18 for like half the year. Cole Eiserman at freaking 16 almost did that. And at the World Juniors, U17 World Juniors, he tied Alexander Ovechkin's all-time goal scoring record. Pretty decent company to be in. I think this year is going to be very important for Cole Eiserman because the U.S. developmental program is definitely going to be good this year, but they're losing a decent amount of talent, forward talent that really helped him out just on some of his lines, on some of his power play. You got Oliver Moore, Will Smith, Ryan Leonard, Gabe Perreault going. It is going to have to be the Cole Eiserman the show, and Hagens. He's there. I kind of forgot him, but Cole Eiserman is going to have to lead this team and prove that he is that guy if he wants to go top three I think top three, but if he wants to go second or first in the draft this year, he needs to probably beat the Cole Caulfield record. Probably get like 74, 75 goals. And Austin Matthews was also 16, I think, when he did that, 16 or 17 in the U.S. developmental program. Isn't what it used to be. But looking at Cole Eiserman, looking at his game, yeah, he's a goal scorer. I use the Austin Matthews comparison just because he has such an elite wrist shot. He has such great accuracy. He's so efficient with the puck on his stick in terms of getting a quick release off. But he's not quite their playmaking. That's my one thing. I don't know if he'll ever be that superstar franchise center in terms of giving you 50, maybe even 60 goals, as well as racking up a ton of assists and driving offense. I think he needs to work on the playmaking side of his game. But even if he's not, and even if he's just the 1C that gets you 45 to 50 goals, that's definitely worth the top 3 pick. Might not be like Celebrini, who I think is maybe the better overall player, but I think his floor, which is crazy because, again, he just turned 16 years old. But based on what he's done thus far and showed on tape at only 16 years old, I think his floor is high 30s goals. Because like Cole Caulfield, yes, there was height concerns, and I don't really buy into the height narrative, but it definitely helps to be taller, to be bigger. There are some concerns. It's more likely that the 6'2" extremely skilled player is going to be better than the 5'6" extremely skilled player. But Eiserman doesn't have those limitations. He's like a grown man, basically, at 16 years old. So I think he has the goal scoring. The shot is already almost NHL level I don't think that's that ridiculous to say based on the production that he just had. It's just filling out the rest of his game in terms of his hockey sense, in terms of his playmaking, in terms of his passing ability. If I see that this year, as well as him setting that U.S. developmental program, he goes for 75 goddamn goals, tears it up at the World Juniors, tears it up at like USHL. I can see an argument for him being first overall, but in terms of an overall player, I do have some concerns, unlike maybe a Celebrini. Next up, we got Ivan Demidov, the KHL prospect. He's playing for SKA St. Petersburg, which we all know is Matvey Michkov's team. Matvey Michkov, and that's what the main comparisons have been. But I don't think the comparisons are that smart. This is their U16 to MHL careers. Matvey Michkov kind of blows him out of the water. But you got to remember, Matvey Michkov had one of the greatest Russian junior careers of all time, so it's a little bit unfair. Like, you don't have to be Matvey Michkov to still be a top 3 pick. Matvey Michkov, near generational talent. But when you look at Demidov, he's progressing very good. What my main concern with him right now, I'm going to get into his game after, but he's not getting a lot of minutes. He's playing at the KHL level this year for SKA St. Petersburg, and as we know, Michkov got healthy scratch the first 2 games. Will that happen with Demidov? I honestly don't know. I hope he gets loaned out to a better team like a Michkov, goes over to Sochi where he can play top line, top power play. I really hope that happens for the sake of his development. But the one good thing regarding the SKA St. Petersburg, although they might tank his development this year, he is only signed for 1 year, for one more year after this. Michkov, he's signed till the end of 2026, and he's a year younger, or he's a year older. So when you look at Demidov, he's only signed for 1 year after his draft year. So it's not the end of the world. I don't think there's as many concerns, because again, you'll be able to hopefully get him by the end of his first draft year +1. But when you look at Demidov, he is a very, very skilled offensive player. I think he's better defensively, honestly, than Matvey Michkov. A very good skater. And offensively, he really just generates offense at a high level. Against grown men, his mind is always moving. He anticipates the next play, and he's just such an effective player. I watched him at the KHL level, even earlier this year in those small shifts that he had. He was very good. I don't think that he has the Michkov level of hockey sense and shot, obviously, but Demidov does kind of remind me of a Nikita Kucherov, which is definitely high praise. I don't know if he's going to become Nikita Kucherov good, but he always reads the next play, even at that level, at that more physical level. And he's such a good skater that even though he did kind of get bodied in the KHL a little bit, he was able to avoid some of those physicality, those big hits, because he's such a good skater. What's going to be next for him probably is developing a good shot. He's very much a pass-first player right now. He looks to pass, is not afraid to shoot it, but he'll have an open shooting lane and just try to dish it off to someone, even if that's kind of a force. I think he had, in 42 games in the MHL, he had 19 goals and 43 assists. So he definitely leans past some more. It's kind of like the anti-Cole Eiserman. He needs to work on his shot, but he doesn't really have that. Yeah, he needs to work on that shot instead of passing it so much. But with Ivan Demidov, if he can post a good Russian season this year, if he either dominates the MHL again or plays an actual role in SKA, I mean, at least he's playing unlike Matvey Michkov, who was just getting healthy scratched. Again, I don't think he's good at Matvey Michkov. I think there's something going on off ice regarding that. But it's going to be very interesting to see him this year. I hope he gets loaned out, but if that's not the case, it could get ugly quick. But overall, with these 3 guys, for me, Celebrini's number 1. What he did at the USHL level, being able to watch a couple of his games, he was just a level above. And even at the U18 World Juniors for Canada, I thought he looked fantastic. And as I said, he maybe doesn't have the shot of Eiserman, but he has the playmaking of Demidov, and he still has a very effective shot. He's the best out of them in transition. His motor is so high. I think he has a higher motor than the other 2. Then at number 2, just because I value goal scoring so much, and the track record of Eiserman's goal scoring is undeniable, considering, again, he's almost made the history books as a 16-year-old, and considering he has that August birthday versus Demidov has that December birthday, which I know birthday sounds crazy, but again, that means August, September, that means he's, 8 or 9 months older, so I think that does hold some weight. I think Cole Eiserman developing next year at the U.S. developmental program versus Demidov in Russia, we don't even know if he's going to goddamn play. Right now, I probably would have Cole Eiserman as my number 2 prospect. Demidov might be the better player in the moment, but I'm willing to bet on the elite shot, the guy that is able to find spaces to rip his elite shot off, then over the guy in Russia that I haven't really seen a ton of this year, and Russian juniors are not that that legit of a league compared to say the North American system. Right now, I would go with Cole Iserman, but it's close. It's close. I don't know. I got to dive more into these guys. I got to watch some more game, and their draft years will be very interesting. I think this draft is going to be fascinating because you do have three guys with a legit case to go number one. This is a scenario where it's not like Bedard when you lose the draft lottery, you're going to be absolutely depressed. It's going to be very much, oh, if you have third overall, it's not a snake draft, so it doesn't really matter. But like if this was fantasy hockey and you had third overall, you're like, oh, I still get one of the elite guys, and then I get an earlier pick before. That's a bad comparison. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, comment, subscribe, all that shit. Let me know in the comments. How would you rate them? Again, I think Celebrini is definitely number one right now. Yzerman 2, just because I like the elite goal scorers, and we've seen the elite goal scorers that the USF Elemental program has been able to put out. And then Demidov, he has the traits to arguably go number one. I think he is that special offensively, but I need to see him hopefully play this year to really put him over Yzerman and especially put him over Celebrini. But let me know in the comments. What do you think about it?